Hey guys, so today we're going to be talking about the history of lecturing tools. First, we start off in 1800s.
Let's not forget, we're not doing a history, we're doing the genealogy. And it's not always linear.
Hi everyone, I'm Michaela and my group is focusing on the genealogy of lecturing tools, and I will be mostly focusing on the classroom blackboard. So the classroom blackboard can be known as one of the most revolutionary and evolving educational tools that has ever been invented. The blackboard was used to teach many components in school and has a huge impact on classroom efficiency. Blackboards can still be seen in classrooms today as they are effective and helpful learning tools to use with students. It started in ancient times when students in Babylonia and Sumeria would carve their lessons on different clay tablets, and they would use a stylus, much like a pen or pencil. They would use this and they would be able to be using it wet or dry, and then they could just erase it, much like the idea of a blackboard. This was useful for teachers as well, as it was so similar to using the blackboard. And then towards the end of the 18th century, students located in Europe and America would start using individual slats that were made of wood and coated with paint over top. This would be replacing the paper and ink because it was very expensive compared to like the slats and wood option, which was a lot cheaper for schools, and they were able to buy a lot more of them. But still, these slats were not as efficient as teachers, because the teachers would have to present the lesson and then write it on the students' individual slats. They couldn't have it at the beginning of the classroom. So James Pillen, who was the headmaster and a geography teacher at a high school in Scotland, got credit for creating the first modern blackboard, in which he put up a large piece of slate in the classroom, and then that would be the blackboard. And this was created in the early 1800s, and it was first put to use in America. Once other schools saw the idea of the blackboard, they quickly wanted their school to adopt this new innovation. Soon, almost every classroom in America had a blackboard engraved at the front of their class. Even some businesses adopted the blackboard idea as well. The 20th century included new improvements to the blackboard. That's when they started using the green board, which was a steel plate coated with porcelain-based enamel. The chalk powder that was used for the blackboard did not show as well as the green did, and also this green board was lighter and would last a lot longer. The blackboards or chalkboards are still in common in schools today, but not used to compared to an overhead projector or a whiteboard. There were many complaints about the blackboard when it first was developing because of the chalk dust contamination and how it was hard to not breathe in the dust when it was in every classroom. Also, there was a lot of extensive cleaning that took after the blackboard, so that just required more cleaning and hiring more cleaners. Thanks!
Discovery, recognizing something that already exists for the first time before anyone else. The whiteboard was created in the 1960s as a means of a lecturing tool in the classroom. Its predecessor, the chalkboard, was not as successful because they were harder to clean and educators were more prone to respiratory issues from the dust of the chalk. Martin Haidt was a Korean War veteran. His job in the war was to document photos to send back to the United States. One day, while working with the photographic film, he discovered you could write on it using a Sharpie pen. Martin then went on to create the world's first whiteboard using the same laminated material as the film negatives. In the 1970s, Martin sold the patent for a whiteboard to a company called Drymark for the purpose of using it in classrooms to enhance collaboration and make teaching easier.
Mrs. Fields?
What?
Wasn't it in 1960?
You're right, Michaela. Do you see how easy this was to change? A large part of the whiteboard's success was how easy it was to clean compared to the chalkboard. Early models, you could only use water to clean the whiteboards, which made it more difficult, but the demand skyrocketed once you were able to clean it with just a simple cloth. Does anyone have any questions?
Me. Where does the word whiteboard come from?
I'm so glad you asked. The etymology of the word whiteboard, it's derived from the word board from 1966, meaning Old English board, other words meaning plank, shield, or deck. Any other questions?
Yeah,
Actually, that's all the time we have for today. On to you, David.
Hi everyone, I'm going to be talking about the overhead projector. First, let's go over the etymology. Overhead comes from mid-15th century. It means above one's head or aloft. Projector comes from 1864, around when the projector was invented. It means to cast an image on a screen. Moving on to the genealogy of the overhead projector. This is a terrible drawing of a projector. It was invented around, as I mentioned earlier, mid-1800s. As many technology was adapted in that time, it also came from military training around the World War, 1940. And the US first federal aid to education program really stimulated the sales when it was brought into the tertiary education and then business onwards. And the overhead sales remained high from the late 1990s up towards the 21st century. In comparison to the black and white boards that we discussed before, overhead projector has smaller zone of control, as seen here. I don't have to be writing across the board. It increased the efficiency of writing and erasing and increased the efficiency of lecturing. A pedagogical view from this guy called Knowlton in 1992 suggests that this overhead projector dims the lights of the classroom, and this projector has the only source of light, and that further encourages a control of knowledge, power, and authority to the center of to the front of the class, to the instructor. So he suggests that lessons in power, authority, and lessons in order and disorder counts as knowledge. What counts as knowledge, what source of knowledge is taught to the students. He recommends teachers to turn on a few light sources while using overhead projector, turn off the projector intermittently to engage the students, and give back the power of learning to the students. Thank you.
So the power of PowerPoint. So PowerPoint visual presentation technologies have changed learning significantly, ushering in a new method never seen before. PowerPoint was first introduced in 1987, made by Robert Gaskins and Dennis Austin for a company called Forethought. So in this time, it was quickly purchased by Microsoft in reaction to Apple's presentation tool called Presenter. It was really targeted towards the business audience and corporate presentations. However, the home computers are going to take off in the 1990s. They're going to take off in schools as well. Everyone began to use PowerPoint at home, and the rise of projectors in classrooms, visual technology exploded. So today's surveys have found that over 75% of seniors and 62% of freshmen use PowerPoint at least once a term. Presentation technology allows teachers to convey the message of what they're teaching students in a way that connects and resonates with them better. The ability to use features such as graphs and tables helps to better explain certain concepts and the narration that narration alone cannot do. The use of videos and pictures of shown studies stays in the mind longer than facts. It's just being thrown out. There are downsides to PowerPoint and other presentation technologies. A lot of the time there's information overload. So the slides may be lecture heavy and give little chance to apply knowledge. This also ties in that students must be given the chance to interact with the presentation on occasions to maximize learning opportunities. There's also consensus that PowerPoint, although great for many instances, is not perfect everywhere. A lot of the times it's better for business classes. The business classes have less math heavy in many cases. It shows that there's an easier ability to understand subjects and comprehend them better. There also might be the reason that business professors have real life knowledge of how presentations are used in the real world, so they now make presentations interactive, what works well and what does not. Lastly, another factor that expedited the use of presentation tools like PowerPoint is that COVID-19 pandemic. The class is going online for over a year. Many teachers had no choice but to use slides as the only available method of teaching. So teachers that were reluctant to use slides or taught certain subjects on the black/whiteboard now teach everything over Zoom on slides.
Hello everyone, I'll be talking about tablet. The word tablet actually comes from Old French in 1300 and it means small table. Jeff Hawkins, the founder of Plum Computing, created the GridPad 9000 in 1989. This was the first known tablet. The purpose for this was to make a schedule for workers and record deliveries. It also has the potential to personalize the data, such as create your own to-do list. This created a path for many other companies to invest into a tablet. Throughout time and with a lot of development, tablets can be used for educational purposes and a way to teach others. Since the release of the iPad in 2010, the mobile tablet haven't been a magical tool for education. As we look at tablets today, we recognize that with its larger screens, greater battery, audio recording software, and access to abundant amount of apps, it gives students and teachers more interactive experience when comparing to other devices such as smartphones or e-readers. Using tablets makes school much more engaging. The virtual environment created by a tablet is stimulating for students who may feel unmotivated by traditional classroom settings. Along with the tablet removes many barriers. For instance, it gives teachers and professors the ability to take notes on the actual presentation rather than writing it on the whiteboard. Lastly, during COVID, the tablet played a significant role for teachers and students. For instance, over Zoom, many professors would use tablets to show us how to draw or construct a model and use it as a way to teach. On the other hand, it was quite easy for students to set Zoom on their laptop and write notes on the tablet. This increased both efficiency and effectiveness for profs and students. Thank you.
Is a term for prioritizing efficiency in education to be the most effective while having the ability to educate the most students. The concept of Fordism came in the early 20th century when Henry Ford of the Ford Motor Company created the assembly line to produce the Model T. The blackboard allowed teachers to go from having to teach small groups of students to focusing a lot of times on individual teaching large group settings. Suddenly one teacher could educate hundreds of students at one time, and it revolutionized teachings in terms of efficiency. The whiteboard, on the other hand, as you can see behind me, furthered this productivity, making the board easier to use for large crowds due to its color, it lasted longer, and is also easier to clean. The whiteboard emphasized cost savings and made what the blackboard was great and made a few tweaks to it. Finally, the introduction of presentation tools like PowerPoint, suddenly topics could be taught to thousands with a single teacher. Fordism was taking full form in education, and slides could be replicated and sent to unlimited amounts of students for teachers for educational purposes. This, in combination with Zoom and the tablet, made education the most productive, as the tablet filled in the gaps, allowing teachers to draw things that PowerPoint could not do.
Jacques Cousteau outlined the world's first universal teaching method. Our genealogy of lecturing tools both reflects and goes against his philosophies. While some would agree it is in line with his philosophy that all humans are capable of learning equally, Jacques Cousteau was also very against students being fed information from teachers. Jacques Cousteau was also the first to apply the constructivist method to education. This suggests that teachers provide students with the right tools to learn, and it is up to them to create the knowledge themselves. So whether you are using the whiteboard, the chalkboard, or PowerPoint, students are given the tools by teachers, and it is up to them to create their own knowledge.